Let's get into Friday feedback, the final Friday feedback feed bag until the 2024 election. We put a poll out to those on our YouTube channel asking which swing state is where Kamala Harris should spend the most time until Election Day. 73% of those who voted said it is Pennsylvania, and the other 27% divided up amongst other states. I agree with this. If you look at all of the different scenarios, could Michigan be the deciding state in this election? Yeah, it could. Could it be North Carolina? It could if Harris were to win, but it doesn't look like she will. Could it be Arizona or Wisconsin? It could be, but it's not likely. In so many scenarios, Pennsylvania is indeed the state that could determine who is the next president of the United States. So in that sense, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that if you have limited resources, where do you focus? If it's one of these five, I agree that it's Pennsylvania. 73% of the 123,000 of you who voted agreed. Let's see where Kamala Harris does spend these last few days. I love this question from the subreddit from a user named Tranquil, who says, almost indignant, why is Harris tied with Trump? Harris is running against one of the most idiotic, moronic presidential candidates in American history. Why is she in a tie in the polls right now? Why are Democrats so bad at what they do? She should be polling in the 80s against Trump. This is a testament to the overall weakness of the Democratic Party. It wouldn't be surprising if she loses. If she wins, we lose anyway. She's a textbook right-wing Democrat who will maintain the status quo for 4 years. Well, the last part I disagree with. I don't see any evidence that Kamala Harris is a status quo textbook Democrat. In fact, on paper, she's running to the left of Biden, who ran to the left of Obama, who ran to the left of virtually every Democrat, major Democratic Party candidate in decades. So that I very much disagree with. But the answer to this question, and it's not that you don't have responsibility as the candidate. Obviously, you have responsibility as the candidate. If Kamala Harris doesn't win, to a degree, it will be her fault, and it will be the fault of the Democratic Party, and I will call it out. But we can't ignore that if you are in a country where tens of millions of people are willing to vote for Donald Trump, you can promise people free ponies and homemade ginger snaps. And some of them are still not going to vote for you because they've been so targeted by the weaponization of propaganda and disinformation to some degree. I mean, listen, you've seen the Trump rally clips. I've seen the Trump rally clips when Luke Beasley and Adam Mockler and others go and interview the Trump people. With some of these people, it doesn't matter what you do. They're not going to vote for Kamala Harris. Either they're not going to vote for a Democrat, they're not going to vote for someone that they've been told is a Marxist, socialist, communist, or some of them aren't going to vote for a woman, some of them aren't going to vote for a non-white candidate, some of them aren't going to vote for someone who's been VP to Joe Biden, right? You have all of these little enclaves. And so it doesn't matter if her tariff policy makes more sense than Trump's. Doesn't matter if her tax plan would actually do more for the average American rather than the wealthiest, which is what Trump's tax plan would. At some point, the facts don't matter. If you live in a country where tens of millions are willing to vote for someone like Trump, even the perfect Democratic candidate is not going to woo them. So I'm as scared as you are. I understand the confusion. It's a scary situation that we're in. User Miami Scooby wrote to me about my video on the MAGA manosphere and toxic masculinity. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to summarize the main point. And the main disagreement that Miami Scooby had with my analysis is that the models of masculinity that are cited in the video are too expensive for a lot of Americans. And I did not include this point in the discussion. It's a very good point. One of the things that it says here that the Miami Scooby writes is, how can you become a good community leader if you can't even provide for yourself? How can you help your neighbor if you're barely staying afloat? A lot of the population is in an anxious survival state. The manosphere resonates because it says, hey, you take control of your life, clean your room, get out of your wretched situation. And if you do that, life will get better. The listeners feel heard and are given actionable advice, even if it's bad. I think that that's a perfectly reasonable thing to include in the analysis. I did not include the financial assessment here, the economic reality, but I do think it is indeed valid. But I also want to make another point about the economics. With a lot of these manosphere gurus, they have expensive gym memberships. They're going to the gym twice a day. They're on expensive steroid regimens. That stuff costs money too. Your average person making $52,000 a year working a full-time job, 8 hours a day plus the commute. They can't go to the expensive gym at all, potentially. They can't go twice a day. They can't be eating clean in the way that a lot of these people describe. They can't afford the steroids that make them look the way they do. So I think there's an economic component to that as well. Dave CC says Trump gets crazier and crazier. He glitches, talks nonsense, and is more unhinged by the day. And yet his election chances and popularity are going up. Someone explain this. Trump's getting more insane. He glitches at rallies, talks about a dead man's unit, sways to music at town halls instead of answering questions, cancels interviews. He seems to be trying to lose the election, seems to be the opposite of logic. It's like the worse Trump behaves, the better he does. Seems Trump's popularity is inversely proportional to his sanity. And goes on to rap by saying, I swear if Trump at this point stood on stage and bit the head off a bat, he would win in a landslide. It's Kafkaesque. I just don't understand it. Yeah, it goes back to what I said earlier. The analysis is correct. I agree with the example in a literal sense. I think if Trump did an Ozzy Osbourne and bit the head off of a bat on stage, some people would find it weird but interesting. The Magats and Magapotamians and Magadonians would absolutely love the alpha move from Trump. And I don't know that it would really dissuade more voters than it would attract. I don't think the guy is going to lose his core support no matter what at this point. And it doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense because this American electorate doesn't make sense. If you just see that tens of millions voted for the guy before, that's all you need to know about the state of the electorate and the sad and sorry and terrifying state of the electorate. User FJ8 on YouTube says, remember, folks, Harris was not nominated. She was installed like a toilet. Yeah, you know, I've dealt with this talking point before. There was nothing democratic about how Harris became the nominee. At this point, just hours before Election Day, it seems that the best response is, if that's your primary concern, don't vote for her, you know? And we've delved into the details before. She was on the ticket that won the primary. She wasn't some random state senator or governor who was installed. The winners of the primary were Biden-Harris. Harris was part of that. And so it's not completely out of nowhere. Secondly, she wasn't just installed. She went and garnered the support of the delegates. The delegates decided. Now, you might say, well, she moved so quickly before anyone had a chance. And you might not like it, but that's called strategy. And again, what I would say to you is, if you do not like the way in which Kamala Harris immediately moved to court delegates, don't vote for her. But for most people, this election comes down to, do we support the guardrails of our democracy or don't we? And so Kamala Harris ending up in this position the way she did is a secondary or tertiary issue to everyone I've spoken to. But once again, if the one thing you care about is not what does the winner say about the future of democracy, what does the winner do about the future of economics and healthcare and foreign relations, if you don't care about that and you care about, I don't like the way Kamala was nominated, then it is absolutely appropriate for you not to vote for her. I'm not belittling it. I'm saying, if that is what you most care about and you don't like how the DNC handled it, don't vote for Kamala Harris. What I do have a problem with is people who act like there's a legal issue here. Political parties can select their candidates however they want. And as voters, we can say, I reject that way of selecting a candidate, and I'm going to vote for someone else or no one at all or write somebody else in. That's everybody's right. I care about democracy too much. And also, she did secure the support of the delegates. She was on the primary ticket that ultimately won. And for me, Was it an awesome system? Would I design the system in this way? No. Is it acceptable given the circumstances and given what's at stake? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. We also heard from Walter Dempsey, who says he's talking about, referring to Trump, he's talking about criminals, not legal immigrants. Pakman, you do nothing but stir up division. Stop your pathetic gaslighting. Well, Walter, you're the one who's gaslighting. The individuals in Springfield, Ohio are not criminals. They are here legally with temporary protected status. If you don't like that they get temporary protected status, vote for a candidate who says they will remove that status. Trump is such a candidate. Trump has said, I'm going to kick them out anyway. I'm going to change the rule that allows them to have temporary protected status. Okay. But as of this moment, they are here legally. David Stevenson said, you are a clown. President Trump has forgotten more about tariffs than you will ever know. Well, if he ever knew anything about tariffs, David, he does seem to have forgotten all of it. I think I'll leave my response at that. He certainly seems to have no memory of how tariffs work. Via TikTok, this gentleman says, just curious, how much are you paid to make videos for the Democratic Party? Great work reporting the news. I appreciate the response. David, Trump likes tariffs because it will discourage U.S. companies from buying from China to avoid the extra costs and instead purchase from U.S. companies or start producing in the U.S. By not purchasing from Chinese companies, it hurts the Chinese government. I'm sorry you embarrassed yourself on the podcast because you don't understand economics. Well, I do have multiple degrees in economics and I do understand tariffs. And I get that your false belief is you put a tariff on China, next thing you know, everybody's buying American. But of course, that's not how it works. And we've talked about that before. If you put a tariff on China, next thing you know, everybody's buying from Indonesia. And if Indonesia gets a tariff, next thing you know, they'll go to the next cheapest place. They'll go to Morocco. And if you say, well, what if they come to the United States because there's no other option? We don't even have supply chains in place for many of the goods and services, goods and raw materials we get from other countries. And it could take a decade to do so. So I get what you think would happen. You just don't know anything about economics. And as far as how much I get paid by the Democratic Party, I get paid zero. I'm not a Democrat. And I don't even know why the Democratic Party would pay me. I mean, I say what I think on the show. That's it. All right. info@davidpakman.com. Get your emails in. Just days left until this very consequential election will be behind us, which I have to admit I'm looking forward to because it's been a rough one. It's been a rough one. We will see you on the bonus show. Get instant access by signing up at joinpakman.com. And then I'll be back Monday for the last of 2 pre-election shows. I wrote a book. This was so much work and a long time coming, but I am thrilled about how it turned out, and I hope you will read it. The book is called The Echo Machine. The 10-second summary is I explain how things broke in American politics, how to fix it, and which countries have already figured it out. No matter who wins in November, we need a plan, and that's what the book is about. If Trump wins, the book is a warning about how we got here and how to prevent it from getting worse. If Kamala Harris wins, the book explains what we do with this incredible opportunity to improve the lives of Americans. The book faces long odds, I will admit. There's the belief that to have a successful political book, you need corporate media, and that it really can't be done successfully with an independent media platform like mine. But I believe that we can prove them wrong. I hope you will order the book today. You can get The Echo Machine at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, anywhere that books, ebooks, and audio books are sold. You can also call any local bookstore, ask them to order The Echo Machine by David Pakman. No matter where you get the book, you will get the free pre-order bonuses, including a signed book plate. After ordering, just go to davidpakman.com/freebookstuff. davidpakman.com/freebookstuff to get the free stuff. Let's do this.